Imagine being 16 and going on a trip to New York. And as you explore the city, you walk near a construction site and your eyes begin to glow uncontrollably until you shoot an optic beam into a metal crane, causing it to fall towards an onlooking crowd. What would you do? Personally, I don't know what I would do either. That's why today we're going to learn about Scott Summers, leader of the X-Men, X-Factor, the Phoenix Five, and so many more. So let's learn about the X-Men's first leader, Cyclops. Cyclops first appeared in X-Men #1, September of 1963. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and has been the mainstay character of the X-Men series, and is one of Stan Lee's personal favorite X-Men. Scott Summers is the first of the X-Men recruited by Professor X. Xavier handpicks Scott to lead his X-Men, and to carry on the legacy of his mutant harmony ideals. Xavier views Scott as one of his most prized pupils. Their relationship really shows their father and son qualities from time to time. Scott's extreme loyalty to Xavier has cost him dearly in his relationships with others, but over the course of this character's publication history, he eventually emerges from Xavier's shadow as the X-Men's undisputed leader. When Scott was a boy growing up in Anchorage, Alaska, his father, United States Air Force Major Christopher Summers, took the family for a flight in their plane. It suddenly became under attack by an alien Shi'ar spaceship, and as the plane went down in flames, Scott's parents fastened him and his younger brother Alex into a parachute and pushed them off of the plane, hoping that they would survive after landing. And with their parents presumed dead from the plane crash, Scott and Alex would soon be separated and sent through the orphanage system. And with this, Cyclops would create a self-imposed mental block he had made as a child to deal with this traumatic event of his life. And for a time, Scott had prolonged amnesia about his childhood. Parts of his memory returned when he was unexpectedly attacked by the demon Despair, while on leave of absence after Jean Grey's perceived first death. Scott spent most of his childhood at the state home for the foundlings in Omaha, Nebraska, was subjected to many tests and experiments by the orphanage's owner, Mr. Milbury, an alias for the geneticist, Mr. Sinister, who also placed mental blocks on Scott. When Scott is 16, he goes on a trip to New York with his orphanage supervisor. Scott would walk near a construction site, and this is where his optic beams would activate for the first time. The blast damages a metal crane, causing it to fall towards an onlooking crowd, and Scott thinks quickly, unleashing a second blast that destroys the crane. But the crowd thinks this is an act of violence and forms becoming a lynch mob. Scott would hop on a train to run away, but Scott would be later found by Charles Xavier. After Xavier helps him out, he would then ask Scott to join him and the X-Men, with Scott gladly accepting as the first official member. And after this, Scott would go to battle against many villains, including Magneto, Unus, the Untouchable, and even the Blob. Cyclops would have a relationship with Jean Grey during their time in the original X-Men. For a long time, he would refuse to admit his feelings to even himself, and afraid he would be hurt again or that his optic blast would hurt her. What Scott did not know was at the time Jean actually had a crush on him, but she is too shy to make any move. But finally, on Bobby Drake's 18th birthday, they would reveal their feelings for each other, and which would spark their relationship. And during one of the X-Men's adventures, he would rediscover his brother Alex as his powers were manifesting, and Alex would join the team with Scott as Havoc. And when the original team of X-Men are defeated by Krakoa, the Living Island, Cyclops is one of the only guys to leave. In light of the arrival of the new X-Men, Cyclops stays, feeling that he would never be able to lead a normal life because of the uncontrollable nature of his powers. He does rediscover his love for her, and not soon after, Scott would physically propose to her. A few days later, she would die though, and after her death, he would quit the X-Men, unsure of what to do anymore. And as taking a break, he would end up signing on as a crew of a fishing boat. But Scott would soon return to the X-Men, and Scott originally believed that his parents died in the plane accident, and is unaware that in the fact that he had been captured and sold into slavery by the Shi'ar. He would also find out his mother was murdered by the Emperor Deken, leaving a grieving Corsair to escape captivity and form the Starjammer. Visit to his grandparents, he would meet Madeline Pryor, a woman who bears a strong resemblance to Jean, and eventually he would marry her instead. And after she would get pregnant, he would retire from the X-Men once more, and would later give birth to his son, Nathan. And shortly after his son's birth, Jean Grey is discovered and revived by the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and it's later revealed that Jean Grey was alive this whole time and had never been the Phoenix. The Phoenix is revealed to have been a cosmic entity who placed a dying Jean Grey in a healing pod at the bottom of the Jamaican Bay, and replaced her, taking on her appearance and memories, to the point of not realizing that she herself was not the real Jean Grey. And after hearing that Jean is alive, Cyclops leaves his wife and his newborn son to rejoin the original X-Men as X-Factor, who pose as mutant bounty hunters, but in reality trying to help their fellow mutants. Meanwhile though, Pryor goes on to be assisting member of the X-Men, and apparently sacrificing her life during the fall of the mutants with her teammates, although she was left with their feelings of despair over the loss of Scott, who felt bad himself over the way he had handled the whole situation. Scott and Jean would finally marry, and during their honeymoon, they are brought into the future where they would raise Cable for 12 years of his life during the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix miniseries. And after helping Cable defeat the future version of Apocalypse, they are sent back to the past. Scott and Jean would soon return to the X-Men sometime later after the request of Storm, when she grows concerned about the mental well-being of Professor X. Their return then leads to the events of the 12, which Apocalypse plans to use a machine to steal their powers of 12 select mutants and the body of Nate Grey, which will make him virtually omnipotent. In order to save Nate, Cyclops willingly merges with Apocalypse, and he is believed dead until Jean and Cable track him down to Egypt and separate him from Apocalypse, and killing Apocalypse's spirit in the process. Upon Cyclops returning to the X-Men following his possession, his personality has been altered as a result of bonding with Apocalypse. And this change causes a rift between him and Jean, and he would claim that Apocalypse made him question not only their relationship, but his life as a whole. And when Jean begins to show signs of the Phoenix Force again, the distance between them grows even larger. Jean would attempt several times to confront Cyclops, but would continue to push her away, claiming that Apocalypse had changed him too much on the inside. Jean, confused by the change in their relationship, confides in Logan, and the two would actually end up sharing a kiss in the woods outside of the school. But Logan would walk away telling her she should remain with Scott. Xavier would end up leaving Earth while under the control of Cassandra Nova, and Jean is left as headmistress of the school, with her new responsibilities along with her growing powers force Jean to put her attention elsewhere, leaving Scott feeling ignored and his trauma from being possessed trivialized. So instead of attempting to reconcile with her, Scott turns to Emma Frost, feeling that he can talk to Emma about his problems. The relationship would begin as a series of psychic therapy sessions, but the two would soon engage in full-fledged psychic affair. When Jean would discover this affair, furious at himself, Scott would confront Jean and demand that she read his mind. And Jean finally complies, only to discover that Scott and Emma never engaged in any physical contact, though Emma had offered it. And after confronting Jean with the truth, Scott would leave once more. Scott soon finds himself at the Hellfire Club, which had been turned into a sleazy strip club, and tries to get drunk, attempting to escape his responsibilities, expectations, and demands, which he felt are unjustly placed on him by the X-Men. He then accompanies Wolverine and Phantom X to the government-created time pocket called the World, and then Asteroid M. And during his time with Wolverine, Scott reveals that he feels his relationship with Jean is stagnant, and the two of them have not progressed romantically since their initial teenage romance. He also confesses that he feels that Jean is so concerned with the school and her new powers that the two no longer communicate like before, and that he feels left behind due to Jean once again being connected to the Phoenix Force. And when Scott finally returns to the X-Men, their new teammate, Zorn, would end up betraying the X-Men, and having at last reached full Phoenix power, Jean confronts Zorn and is killed in the process. And as she's dying, Scott apologizes for hurting her, but Jean instead tells him that she understands and has never seen him more alive and urges him to live on. Scott, however, is devastated by Jean's death and considers leaving the X-Men once again. To prevent this, a resurrected future version of Jean uses her powers as the White Phoenix to telepathically reach back in time to tell Cyclops it's okay to move on, leading him to start a real relationship with Emma. And together, the pair would rebuild the Xavier Institute as co-headmasters. This new relationship between Emma and Scott would lead to problems between them and the rest of the X-Men, and all of whom believe that the pair are doing Jean's memory a disservice. The other X-Men, though, would eventually come to accept this relationship, and pushing ahead, deciding that the X-Men needed to play more of a role in emergency rescue and aid, and thus garner attention on mutants in a more positive light, where mutant abilities are used for the good of the people. Cyclops would handpick a new team in the Astonishing X-Men series of himself, Emma, Beast, Kitty Pryde, and Wolverine. But in the Astonishing X-Men number 14, during an impromptu telepathic therapy session, Emma Frost presented Cyclops with the possibility that his lack of control over his optic blasts actually stems from not physical brain damage he has had in the past, but from a sort of mental block that the younger Scott imposed upon himself. And after the combined traumas of the loss of his parents, separation from his brother, and the shocking manifestation of his powers, this is seen as a coping mechanism, giving Scott something to focus on and try and maintain some sort of control over at a time when events played completely out of his own control and had effectively shattered his life he had led up to that point. And Scott admits that this series is the truth, but further admitting that he had blocked making the decision out of his memory to prevent others from discovering his secret. The issue ends with Scott's apparently in a catatonic state with his eyes uncovered and displaying their natural shade of brown, with no evidence of his powers trying to manifest. He would have full control over his optical blast for a while, although it was only temporary. During the Schism storyline, Cyclops and Wolverine have finally come to a mutual, unspoken yet understood respect for each other after years of fighting and rivalry. And while at a conference for weapon control, Kid Omega, also known as Quentin Quire, launches a psychic terrorist attack on the ambassadors present, and in response, Sentinels are deployed at the conference and are disposed of by Cyclops and Wolverine. And due to the growing fears of a mutant threat, countries around the world begin to mobilize their Sentinel forces. Cyclops begins to deploy X-Men around the globe to deal with this threat, but sometime after, Kid Omega would show up again to Utopia, where a lot of mutants have taken refuge at this point, to plead for help, and Wolverine tries to attack Kid Omega when Cyclops would stop this. Later, Cyclops sends a team to a local mutant museum to exhibit a show of force. The new Hellfire Club would actually attack this exhibit and incapacitate all the senior X-Men present, and as Cyclops flies to the museum from Utopia and Wolverine rushes to help, Idie asks if she should kill the Hellfire Club to help. While Wolverine protests against this profusely, Cyclops would tell her to do what she feels is right, and Idie would kill almost every Hellfire Club member left to save her friends and mentors. And from here, Wolverine would show aggression towards Cyclops, but he would restrain himself when he realized what he's doing. However, the new Hellfire Club activates a special giant sentinel sent towards Utopia, and with most of the X-Men far from Utopia and part of the team recovering, Hope Summers and other Teen Mutants would volunteer to join and help Cyclops in this fight. Wolverine is opposed to the idea of putting children on the front lines against the Sentinel, but ignoring this, Cyclops would insist that everyone who wants to fight should fight. Wolverine gets a detonator and threatens to blow up Utopia in order to make the youngsters run away from the island and destroy the Super Sentinel. Cyclops and Wolverine's frustration with each other would come to a head, and when Cyclops brings up Jean Grey, the two would fight each other in a rage while being attacked by the Sentinel itself. With an ideological differences between Cyclops and Wolverine, makes Wolverine decide to leave Utopia and bring along whoever wants to come with him. Both men would eventually start recruiting their own teammates. Some members of the X-Men would leave with Wolverine, while part of them would stay in Utopia. And while technically Wolverine doesn't leave as an enemy of Cyclops and his X-Men, he makes it clear he wants both sides to stay out of each other's businesses. And various X-Men leave for various reasons. For example, Rogue would depart because she feels that Cyclops has reached a point where his previous willingness to question his decisions have been replaced by an inability to accept when he might be wrong. And with the X-Men who have chosen to leave alongside him, Wolverine would return to Westchester, New York to open up the Jean Grey School for the Gifted, while Cyclops organizes new teams of X-Men and remain on the island of Utopia. Down the road, with the discovery of the Phoenix Force returning to Earth, apparently to use Hope as a host, Cyclops believes Hope as a phoenix can be used to jumpstart the mutant population. But with such a global phenomenon, At this point, the Avengers would step in, with Captain America fearing that the Phoenix will come to Earth and destroy everything. So he assembles a force of Avengers aboard a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier and uses the S.H.I.E.L.D. cloaking technology to travel to Utopia to confront Cyclops. And upon arriving to Utopia, Captain America orders Cyclops to transfer Hope to his protective custody. And assuming that Captain America would not take no for an answer, Cyclops refuses and uses Optic Blast to push Steve Rogers back into the sea, would take the beach and apprehend Hope Summers. During a battle, Hope escapes Utopia, and after Hope escapes, Cyclops orders the X-Men to surrender and ends the fighting. And once Magik returns to Utopia, Cyclops directs Magik to use her teleportation power to facilitate the X-Men's escape. Cyclops would end up scattering the X-Men across the globe with a mission to prevent the Avengers from capturing Hope. Hope seeks out Wolverine for help, but Wolverine would end up aiding Hope and traveling to the blue area of the moon, but would then call the Avengers to inform them of Hope's location. Cyclops and a select group of X-Men would arrive to stop Hope's capture, and Iron Man would fail in his attempt to disrupt the Phoenix Force, and as a result, the Phoenix Force is divided instead, which would inhabit 5 X-Men present on the moon, none of them which is Hope. Cyclops, which is now one of the new Phoenix avatars, would travel back to Earth with an unconscious Hope. Then the newly dubbed Phoenix 5 begins to transform the world into their eyes. The world's transformation begins as a utopian society which ascends to a police state as the avatars are corrupted by the power and are unable to control their desires, impulses, fantasies, and whims from changing reality. In defense against the combined assault of the Avengers and the X-Men, Cyclops would attack Emma Frost carrying part of the Phoenix Force, and it would absorb the portion of the Phoenix Force before killing Xavier and transforming into Dark Phoenix. In the pitched battle, the Avengers and the X-Men weaken Cyclops enough for Hope to absorb the Phoenix Force herself. She undoes the changes to the world caused by Cyclops, and she and the Scarlet Witch then would spread out the Phoenix Force across the globe, causing thousands of people to become mutants, and Cyclops is actually held captive in a ruby quartz cell from this point on. But while guilt-stricken over killing Xavier, he is happy overall because the mutant race has been restarted and claims that he would do it all over again. Later, Magneto, Magik, and Danger would end up breaking out Cyclops from prison, and the Avengers would arrive to find the prison demolished and abandoned, except for the Warden, who delivers a message from Cyclops to Wolverine stating that he will support Wolverine's school and will continue to fight for mutant rights. Noting that now that Wolverine has taken the role of the better man, Cyclops can be the man who does what's necessary. And with the X-Men disturbed really at Scott's more violent policies, including attacking police officers, various officials for illegally detaining mutants after their powers have manifested, but unwilling to actively confront him for fear of triggering another mutant civil war. A chance comment by Iceman does inspire Beast to pursue a new solution. He travels back in time to recruit Scott Summers from the early days of Xavier's school to convince the present Scott that what he was doing was wrong. And it is also speculated that who either possessed or had strong interactions with the Phoenix Force have had their abilities altered in varying ways. And this leaves the present day Cyclops with little to no control over his powers. Now, following after Secret Wars, Cyclops was killed during the Death of X storyline when the X-Men discovered that the release of the Terrigen Mist, which give Inhumans their powers, were fatal to mutants upon exposure, and Cyclops was one of the first victims of the Mpox. But he would soon be revived though after the events of the most recent Uncanny X-Men series, where most of the X-Men, Legion, Magneto, Apocalypse, Blob, and even Omega Red are vanished by the hands of X-Man, who plans to reshape the world without X-Men. Cyclops, while keeping his low profile, is seen a few days later reading the news of the X-Men's disappearance. It is explained that in his recent resurrection was caused when the younger version of Cable went to find Paul, a human who was rescued by Cyclops from back in the day. With Paul now working for Tony Stark as a scientist, Cable gives Paul the Phoenix Cage, a device created by the Avengers back in 2012 to recreate the device so he could resurrect Cyclops. And Cable and Paul would manage to find Cyclops' corpse after his public death and implanted a smaller version of the Phoenix Cage into Cyclops' heart. And when Cyclops was temporarily brought back by the Phoenix Force during Jean's resurrection, the Phoenix Cage is activated and absorbs a small portion of the Phoenix Force, which eventually restored Cyclops back to life. Even after the Phoenix abandoned him, now needing a new team to get everyone back, Cyclops would end up finding Wolverine, and they would go to recruit Magik, Wolfsbane, Karma, Strong Guy, and one of the Multiple Mans, and even his brother Havoc. With this new official team, he would set out to go ahead and save everyone, to bring them back, including Jean Grey. At this point, he has not seen in many years. So, what do you guys think? I know this is a super long video, and if you guys are still with me to the end, thanks so much. If you guys like this stuff, make sure to like and subscribe, and tell me what you guys think. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comment down below. But other than that, guys, I don't want to hold you guys on too much longer, so go ahead and just hit that bell icon, and I'll check you guys out in the next video. See ya.